Hi everybody, this is Angie from Tourangie.com, and today I am back in Bluefield and I'm going to drive to downtown Bluefield, but I'm going to use Old Princeton Road here, the first right that we're coming up to. Of course, I'm on 460 now, if you can't tell, if you're not from the area. We'll be taking this first right, then crossing the bridge to Bluefield Avenue when we get up to it, then going on to do downtown. So you could see the update with how it's looking since some of the buildings have came down, and now they're doing a little bit of a detour now for downtown Bluefield due to I believe it's the Montgomery Wards building that is coming down next, the old Montgomery Wards. So we're going to find something to talk about while we do this drive, and I hope you enjoy. I'm going to be reading to you today from one of the books from the Historical Society. It came out in the 1980s, and it's a section called Early Settlers. There's some statistical information, and we're going to talk about Richard Bailey and some of his family. So when Mercer County was formed in 1837, less than 2,000 people were living in the area taken out of Giles and Tazewell counties to form this new county. According to the 1840 census, the population reached 2,243. Many of those living in the area were descendants of the men and women who first settled here in the last quarter of the 18th century. Families began moving to the newly formed county, and by 1850 there were 665 households with a total count of 4,222. In the 10 years, population almost doubled. In 1860, the population was 6,819. In 1870, it was 7,064, and in 1880, it was 7,467. With the coming of the railroads in the 1880s, the population sharply increased to 16,002 by 1890 and 23,023 by the turn of the century. A lot of the information that is found in this article is basically from Bible records, courthouse records, tombstones, census lists, and family oral histories. In many instances, dates are approximated, and there may be some conflicting dates based on that the records do not agree. So we're going to talk about Richard Bailey. He was the son of James Bailey of Henrico County, Virginia, and married Elizabeth Ann Belcher. In September of 1764, Richard Bailey sold 100 acres of land, which he had bought from John Skelton in 1760, and left with his family to the Blackwater River portion of Bedford County, which later became Franklin County, Virginia. From Franklin County, Bailey came with his family to the Beaver Pond Spring near Bluefield in 1780. Richard Bailey and John G. Davidson built a block house over the spring that later became known as the Davidson-Bailey Fort. The fort was used as a place of refuge for protection against Indians. Richard Bailey was a soldier with the American Army during the Revolutionary War. He and his sons, especially older ones, were great Indian scouts and finders, and were splendid specimens of physical strength and great personal courage. Richard Bailey and his son John and the Davidsons served at the fort on many occasions when the need arose. They served under Captain Moore, who at one time directed them to go to North Carolina because word was received that the British were approaching. Richard Bailey, the early settler, was known for owning many thousands of acres, of course in Franklin County, Virginia, but in areas of Lashme, Matoka, Rock, Montcalm, Lorton Lick, Bramwell, Spanishburg, and possibly other areas of Mercer County, along with large areas in surrounding counties also. Among early business transactions, a man paid for a tract of land in Franklin County and made good on the debt by paying Richard in a bar of iron castings and steel. From the transaction, Richard could now make utensils for cooking and farm tools needed by the pioneer settlers. Now it says Richard Bailey, the early settler, and his wife are buried on the Leatherwood Farm near U.S. Route 460 in South Bluefield. His grave is situated opposite of Leatherwood Lane near the Virginia state line. Now, I'm going to be showing you that little area in an upcoming video, which I think that's pretty neat that they do have the grave, for that. That was, late 1700s, so that's great. Also, Richard's son John was buried at Whitethorn School in Bluefield, and as you all know, Whitethorn is no longer there. There used to be a plaque on the side of the wall there at Whitethorn, but the school is now gone. Richard and Elizabeth Ann Belcher had 8 children. 8 sons and 2 daughters. John James, Richard Jr., Chloe, Eli, Micaiah, Reuben, Archibald, Sarah, and Henry. So as you can tell, we finished Old Princeton Road and are now on Bluefield Avenue, heading to downtown. I don't have a lot of information about John Bailey. He was mentioned in the little section about Richard Bailey because he was the eldest son. But I do know that he married Nancy Davidson, who was the daughter of John G. Davidson. And they built a house. It was a log cabin in 1789, and that house is now at the Bluefield City Park and was moved there by the John Chapman chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. John and Nancy's oldest son, Jonathan, which was born in 1790, at 4 days old, all 3 of them had to take by horse to the Beaver Pond Springs Fort because of an Indian excursion in the neighborhood. But John and Nancy had 7 children, and that's all I have about John Bailey. Richard Bailey Jr. I have a lot more information about. Richard Jr. and his wife Isabel were parents to 10 children: Samuel, Richard, Elizabeth, Polly, Henry, Sarah, John, Jameson, Margaret, and Eli. Eli, the youngest child of Richard Jr., was born in 1820 and died in 1903. He married Charlotte Temple Bailey, daughter of George Bailey, and she was born in 1820 and died in 1878. Eli lived on part of the Richard Bailey farm at Rock, West Virginia. Among his activities was a tunnel in which he dug through the mountain near the Bluestone for the water to flow to power his grist mill used for grinding grain. This is known as Tunnel Mill, located about 2 miles below R.R. Trestle in Rock. Eli was also known as a blacksmith, and some blacksmith tools are still in possession of his descendants. Eli served as Justice of the Peace in Mercer County beginning in 1882 and called Squire Eli Bailey. His sons Cornelius W. and Greenville Campbell served in the Confederate Army during the Civil War. They had 12 children. Eli and Charlotte Temple Bailey had 12 children. Andrew J., born in 1840, who married a Sarah Jane Belcher. Greenville Campbell, born in 1841, married Sarah Elizabeth Jane Bowling. Ardelia, born in 1843. Cynthia, born in 1845, who married James Henry Neal. Cornelius, born in 1847, who married Susan Neal. John Hugh, born in 1848, married Sarah Kinzer. Almeida, born in 1853, married Thomas Belcher. Bluford, born in 1854, married Catherine Grimm. Melvina, born in 1856, married John Peter Bailey. Paradine, born in 1858, married Maz Belcher. Virginia Herndon, born in 1861, married James Thompson. And Clementine, born in 1867, married Huron Davis. Richard Jr., Eli, Cornelius Granville, and many others of the family are buried in Rock Cemetery in Mercer County, West Virginia. So, as you can tell, we're here in downtown Bluefield, and you can see all the demolition that has happened. There's still that one building remaining there. They've started working on tearing down a lot of the buildings here. That is the best view you will get because of the detour. I just go up this street here, and this is Scott Street. Up here on the right is Scott Street Baptist Church, and I'm driving on a Sunday, so you see lots of cars here for the church services that are going on. And just up here on the right on the hill is the fellowship home. I'm hoping to find some more information to talk about the fellowship home in the future, but right there it is. Well, that's about all I have to talk about with this video. I will have several more videos coming, and I've done all of my filming for July, I believe. So this is Angie from Tourangie.com. Come to my website, read my blogs, but make appointments so I can help you plan your next travel adventure. Talk to you all later.